About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with a neurological condition called laryngeal dystonia. Now, the symptom for that, which quite confusingly is spasmodic dysphonia. Quite a few people can have spasmodic dysphonia, but laryngeal dystonia is one of the causes of those symptoms. And I had the symptoms about 5 years before I was diagnosed. It's quite difficult to diagnose, and lots of people could tell me what it wasn't. And eventually I was diagnosed through an article in the Daily Mail. When my voice wasn't good, when the treatment wasn't working, or when I was in between injections, the quality would deteriorate, and I would become, or it'd be difficult for people to understand me. And I always remember once going into McDonald's with our 2 kids who were teenagers and giving my order, and the person behind the counter turned to one of the kids and said, "What's he saying?" Which, was really demoralising. So I think I probably did become fairly depressed at that stage, although not clinically depressed. So it did put a great strain on you emotionally. And also within the family, I became slightly difficult to live with. When we went to the United States, quite a bit of it was relearning basic speech procedures that I had known before. And one of those was posture. So the first thing was we were taught, to keep upright so that there is a clear pathway for the air to flow over the vocal cords. And obviously it's the air flowing over the vocal cords and vibrating them that produces sound. The other thing which was part of my problem was breathing, because breathing had ceased to be a natural event for me. So we did intensive breathing exercises and learned the principle of only speaking between 9 and 6. Now, if you imagine that when you fill your lungs and start to breathe out, if you have a little pause, if 10 is full, if you wait until you're at 9 and then speak until your lungs are about half full and then breathe again, it cuts out one of the problems of the voice becoming very breathy. So these were 2 things. Another which I had learned is called a sensory trick. And I had learned that if I put my throat into a yawn configuration, so if you yawn and feel how your voice is, if I keep my throat like that, the spasm can't kick in. But we then learned how to take the sound from the throat into the front of the face, into the lips, and into the nose. So this amplifies the sound. And we did a lot of singing as well, and singing nursery rhymes. So we'd be standing there singing, "Mary had a little lamb, little lamb." And the breathing chap was a big, gruff American. And on one occasion, working one-to-one with him, I was standing singing, "Mary had a little lamb," and he went round behind me, linked arms to arms, back to back. And he leaned forward, lifting me completely off the ground, and dumped me back in the ground, still singing. And it went, "Mary had a little lamb." And that was the first time in about 15 years that I had heard that quality of voice. So I dissolved into tears. But that was the breakthrough. So it was then a case of building on that, quality of voice so that I could use it in everyday speech. And when I came back to the UK, I went to see my consultant up in Nine Wells, who had been really quite sceptical about me going. And I went in and he said, how are things? And I just said, well, it's quite a long story. And that was all I said. And he immediately replied, well, that's the best I've ever heard your voice. And within a week, he had sent me to speak to the speech and language therapists in Tayside, who then got me to go and speak to their Scottish conference. And now Professor Blair, often if he thinks it's appropriate, when he has someone newly diagnosed, he'll ask if they would like to come and see me and learn about these techniques which can help as well as the injections.